You are listening to The World Between Worlds, a Star Wars podcast, where a bunch of Star Wars fans and film enthusiasts are marathoning the entire Star Wars filmography, including the animated shows. This week we're talking about the Holocron Heist arc in the Clone Wars that features newcomer Cad Bane, a bunch of exciting stealth and crime stuff, and Darth Sidious' evil plans. I name is Yates. You name Jordan.
Yeah, sure.
Keats.
You Keats. We, World Between Worlds. Jordan, my good friend, you were not here last week.
Nope.
Then I'd love for you to start off with Holocron Heist. The first episode.
Holocron Heist. So Ahsoka is like in the middle of the battle on Felucia, and then they got a dip. She doesn't want to dip, just like in the previous arc that we watched, where she really doesn't want to retreat.
Oh, with the Ryloth arc?
Yeah. I think she's getting a little too cocky. Or just listening to Anakin too much. And then, so they dip from that planet.
You go to Coruscant.
Oh, yeah, she's grounded.
I just got so caught up in my own success, I didn't look at the battle as a whole. I wasn't being disobedient, I just forgot.
Masters, this incident is my responsibility. Because of Ahsoka's advanced abilities, I forgot how young she is. I gave her more freedom than I should have.
That may be, but it doesn't excuse what happened on Felucia. I think she needs some time away from the battlefield.
Yeah. Ahsoka gets reprimanded, and they shove her with everyone's favorite old lady, Jocasta Nu, in the Jedi Temple Library.
Yep, basic boring desk job, basically.
Yeah, and she's like a bodyguard, but then she's not really guarding anything. Well, I guess she's guarding the Holocrons.
Yeah, but she doesn't really... It's almost like...
She's just like walking around like trying to talk to people.
And when they talk about the Holocrons, Ahsoka's like, oh, what's a Holocron? Like, conveniently, she has no idea what a Holocron is so that we can explain it to the audience.
Exposition. And then we're introduced to Cad Bane in a really cool shot with like a lot of shadows.
Excuse the interruption. As I was saying, Bounty Hunter, I have need of your services.
I'm listening.
I need a Jedi Holocron.
To get a Holocron, I'd have to break into the Jedi Temple. It's impossible. Not to mention, deadly.
Perhaps your reputation has been exaggerated.
And who is Cad Bane, Jordan?
He is a Duros, and he's a bounty hunter. Wears a sick cowboy hat. Has a cool voice. Are those like voice modulators?
Yeah, well...
Because he doesn't need them to like survive or anything. It's literally just aesthetic.
Don't the Duros in A New Hope, they're wearing like spacesuits, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there is an element to that where like they need to be adapted.
But they aren't wearing anything on their head.
It's true. You're right.
I guess he just wants to look cool.
Yeah.
And then we are introduced to a cute little robot guy and a changeling.
Claudite, right? That's what they're called.
Claudite. And Cad Bane had killed a Jedi, I forget his name. But she then changes into his form because she's a shapeshifter. That's like the species' like special ability, which is really cool. It's very comic booky, very.
And we don't see it a lot. We've seen it.
It's like in one of the recent comics where.
Oh yeah, that's the Star Wars one, right? The Mon Cala arc.
Yeah, where the Claudite becomes like an admiral.
Yeah,
well, that's good.
That's a great plot device.
I'm pretty shocked that it's not used more because that's.
I guess it's a little OP.
It is OP.
It's
that was like the
but,
first note that I wrote.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like it's so OP you would imagine it comes up more often, like Kryptonite and Superman.
So then after that, she like infiltrates the temple, and basically Sidious hires Bane to steal a holocron. We don't really know why.
Yeah, I don't think they say it in this episode.
They don't say why, and that's pretty much the gist of the episode. And then they break in, and then the Jedi have to stop them. And Ahsoka learns a valuable lesson.
Which is... violence is good.
Violence is always the answer, and respect your elders.
Ahsoka doesn't learn her lesson this episode.
Yeah, that's true. It's really like the next episode.
Yeah, it's kind of like this episode and the next one are pretty tied together for Ahsoka. But obviously, this is very different from some of the content that we've gotten previously. Because, we talked a couple times already about how much variety there is in the Clone Wars in terms of genre. Like, Lair of Grievous being a horror episode, etc. All these other examples. This is definitely like the spy story that we haven't gotten yet. Well, not spy story, but the heist story.
Yeah, it's in the title, right? Yeah, it's a heist.
Yeah, it's literally in the title.
So we've seen a bit of the criminal underworld before in the other movies, and specifically in Clone Wars, the whole event sort of is kicked off with the Jabba the Hutt stuff and the Zero the Hutt stuff in the Clone Wars movie. But Cad Bane is a different class of criminal, and he's this is probably the first story. Oh, and Hondo. We forgot about Hondo. How could we forget about Hondo? But this Holocron Heist is probably the first example of a story predominantly told from the criminal's point of view. And that, that's new for Clone Wars, and it's new for Star Wars too. I mean, Han Solo is kind of a criminal, but, Cad Bane is not a good dude.
No, not at all.
Han Solo's a criminal with a heart. Cad Bane is a criminal with a huge dick.
Want to do that again?
Cad Bane is a criminal with a huge dick.
Yeah, like the main difference between Han Solo and Cad Bane is Han Solo finds out that the coaxium is gonna like it's being put towards a series of masterminds who are gonna destroy an entire culture, and he's like, maybe that's not a good idea. And then Cad Bane's like, oh, you're stealing children? I'm cool with that.
Yes.
I need test subjects. Choose 4 children and bring them to Mustafar. I will take care of them.
Kidnapping innocent children. Seems like a small-time crime for the likes of you.
Among the children of the Jedi, there are no innocents.
Sure. As long as I get paid, it makes no difference to me.
It's a sort of a standard heist story in that it's also an ensemble. Cad Bane has friends that he brings into the fold. I thought they were both cool. The Claudite, like you said, exactly. Friend Jordan did quotation marks. They can't see that. But
Air quotes.
Yes, they're brought in kind of like they're friends, like Ocean's 11 or whatever. These are Cad Bane's criminal friends. And of course, Cad Bane totally.
He took it up one level. He didn't stab his friend in the back. He put a bomb in his friend's back.
Yeah, poor Toto 360, this little Seth Green droid.
That's Seth Green?
Yeah, it's Seth Green.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was, Yeah, I thought Toto was cute. Keats, you're the resident. I love the battle droids, but pretty much every other evil droid you love. So, do you want to talk about Toto 360?
I mean, I love the battle droids too.
They're getting cuter and cuter.
Yeah, it's like definitely.
It's like the
an
cuter
incline.
they are, the more evil they are. Maybe that's a secret, like Dave Filoni, trick.
Well, isn't Toto kind of like a slave almost? I wouldn't say he's like villain by choice. He's like, I think he's literally a service droid. He's not. He's not like
he's like a technical droid. Well, that was one thing that I thought was interesting about it was the way that he was portrayed. I didn't think he was a servant, or perhaps to Cad Bane. Cad Bane, saw him as his servant, but Toto, I think, sort of saw himself more as an entrepreneur and more just like, I have my job and I know what I'm good at and I'm choosing to work with the best. I'm working with Cad Bane, and meanwhile, Cad Bane is like, yeah, shut up. You work for, I own you. This is a relationship where I reap all the benefits.
Where's L3 when you need her?
She gave her life for all those droids and all those Wookiees.
She gave her life. She gets to live forever in the Millennium Falcon, the most iconic spaceship of all time.
Yeah, but now
technically I have an L3 tattoo.
Oh my god. Dude, you gotta tell everyone that.
Dude, you wanna see the
you wanna see my sick L3
tattoo? Bane tells him to get the door, and he's like, I'm a service droid, I'm not a butler droid. So, butler and service,
But yeah, that's the thing, he doesn't say he's a service droid. He says, I'm a technical engineer unit or something like that. He specifically is like a hacker and engineer type of thing.
I'm pretty sure he says I'm a techno service unit.
Maybe he does it.
Yeah, he does. He's like, I'm not a butler. I'm a techno service.
So droid. I don't know what the difference is really between a butler and a service droid.
Well, just like C-3PO wouldn't be able to break into the Jedi
it's more about
temple.
Function.
Yeah, it's about function.
So, yeah, he's being abused. That's not a healthy relationship. Get him out of there. Let me cuddle him. Dave,
Take him home.
Kathleen, if you're listening, please make a plushie for him.
Why didn't Yoda stop the bomb from blowing up and take him home? Just like, why didn't Padme take the rabbit droid home?
That's the introduction to another new character.
That dies very quickly.
Spoilers. That model of droid comes back.
He does?
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. I'm pretty sure he just gets a replacement droid.
That makes sense. Cad
so.
Bane's like totally utilitarian and, looks like the dude's rolling the money, so I think he can get a new droid if he wants.
Yeah.
And then there's also the Claudite character, who he's also like, I don't know. She does have... Do we have the time to talk about the gender fluid Claudites?
There's always time.
Wasn't there a comic where Zam Wessel? It was the one that you gave me. We talked about it in the episode 0, but you gave me the Phantom Revealed or whatever omnibus, and I think there is one where Zam Wessel walks into a room as Zam Wessel as we know her from Attack of the Clones, and she's wearing sort of like an I Dream of Genie super silky see-through getup, and then Jango's like, oh, you're as a woman today, yeah? And then she's like, this is how I'm feeling today, something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't think they meant it that way though. I think they just didn't know what a response would be other than, I feel like wearing this right now.
Well, no, the context of the scene he wasn't talking about the dress. He was like, you came as a woman today, not as a man. Fett had run missions with Zam when Zam was identified as a man. So anyway, back on track. How does Cad Bane use the Claudite character? Isn't there a point where he just abandons the Claudite character? Just straight up
the Claudite character gets captured, so she gives up all the information on the plan. And then Cad Bane is forced to escape before there's any time.
Oh, right. So the Claudite character is just taken to jail.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Why would she give up all the information of the plan immediately? The second the handcuffs come on, she's like, he's in the ventilation shaft and he's going to this location and blah, blah, blah.
Cad Bane's really smart. One of my favorite parts of the episode was when he made the droid go to the communication center and exploded the door to the holocron. Because they heard the explosion, and then when they went towards it, they saw the hole leading to the communication center, and we're like, oh, they went to the communication center. But it was just a distraction. Yeah. And in reality, he actually blew up the door to the holocron, and then he just snuck right by.
And that's an interesting factor in the whole episode, too, is that what is really being sought after here in this episode is arcane knowledge. The Jedi assume that what is being...
It's war related.
Yeah, that it's...
But it's not.
Exactly, that it's war related. They're so wrapped up in that. And Yoda even the threat is so severe that Yoda stops everything that he's doing. Is oh my god, there's a disturbance in the Force, someone's attacking the Jedi Temple. And everyone's oh my god, they're going to the war room, and they're so caught up in that, and Cad Bane uses that 100% to his advantage because he's a smart guy, and so the Jedi are totally duped, and what is actually being stolen is way more precious, at least to the Jedi, and that's we find out, I think at the very end, it's the location of all of the Jedi younglings that will be recruited in the future that they've identified as Force sensitive.
Did they say it was every child, or did they just say it was
I
some of the
they
important
said it
children?
was every child.
I think they said it was every child.
Yeah, it was the whole future of it's the future of the Jedi basically, and they don't know. Only Cad Bane knows that in fact it's Darth Sidious. It's the person behind all of this that was able to. They were so caught up in the war that Darth Sidious was just able to take what he wants right out of their hands.
And it's just left in the hands of some unknown Jedi. I'm a Gundai 2.0.
Cad Bane and his whole band, they work together as a team. Toto is providing the readout and live updates on the entire temple and temple security. And obviously Cad Bane is the muscle. He's a pretty competent fighter and is able to blast his way through the Jedi Temple, or just even to get around there pretty easily. And the Claudite character was in charge of the actual infiltration and getting intel, which in order to do so, taking the form of Jocasta Nu, our favorite Jedi librarian character from yesteryear.
Shouts out. Blocks out for Jocasta.
So Jocasta Nu is back, but this time as Ahsoka's boring boss instead of
Obi-Wan's judgmental assistant.
Yeah. I mean, she was used pretty wisely here, I thought.
She just kind of says 2 lines and then gets knocked out.
Yeah, but just in terms of it just made sense to include her, I think.
No, yeah, it did. And I mean, she's an old lady.
Yeah, and it makes sense that she knows like about the holocrons and like just the explaining how precious that was. You know, she's the keeper of knowledge, and yet that was like a big thing. I guess that's one thing that Ahsoka learns, but it's really not part of her arc because her arc is sort of like over all the episodes. But it's like Jocasta is like, this is worth protecting. This is what the Jedi culture is all about, and Ahsoka. The whole reason that she was brought back out of the conflict was it's like she sort of just like lost sight and lost perspective. Like it's not like she did a bad job on the mission. That is part of it. But they were like, I think Mace Windu and Yoda said, you're too wrapped up in the mission. Like you're too wrapped up in the war. This is bad for you, which is something we've been saying the whole time. Is like Ahsoka.
Well, yeah, more specifically, it was that she was caught up inside of her personal victory as opposed to forgetting about the war surrounding it. Yeah, she didn't realize that there was more going on than just her specific district of war.
That is the one thing that she learns in this episode is being with Jocasta Nu is that, you know, sort of getting back in touch with the culture of the Jedi, I guess. Like, oh, there's these holocrons and this ancient knowledge that's been around forever. And, you know, that's part of what we're protecting here. And, you know, I'm sure Jocasta Nu probably doesn't even like the war. She's just pretty passive about it, probably. But she's just like, you know, all I care about is this library. And, you know, I love learning things. And Ahsoka's like, oh, yeah, I forgot. That's something that, you know, I should be about as well. So that's like one small thing.
Jocasta Nu, hit me up.
You like her?
I do.
Yeah, who are we kidding? Jocasta Nu is great. Get at me, Christian Harloff, you're wrong. Jocasta Nu is not the worst Star Wars character.
Who said that?
Christian Harloff from Collider Jedi Council.
One of the most important internet icons for Star Wars.
Jordan,
I wish
is coming to take your ass down, Monte Carlo, whatever the fuck your name was.
Is that a car or is that a person?
I wish like we could record Jordan's face, but yeah, Jordan's really passionate about this.
I love Jocasta Nu. Who's this irrelevant guy? I never heard of him. You know how many people heard of me? Like 10 people.
Well, I mean, it's for the purposes of the podcast, your name is just Jordan, so a lot of people have heard of a Jordan.
You're right. Yeah. Who heard?
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I got a country. I got an almond. I got a river. I got a city in Montana. Come on, yo. What do you got, Monte Cristo?
Planet in Star Wars is still pretty cool. But it's not as cool as it's had in Montana. You're right.
Definitely not as
Christian, cool. Monte Carlo, Monte Cristo. Moving on to the second episode, Cargo of Doom, we come back with Cad Bane, who, after the first episode, he talks about a Jedi that he's going to bring into custody. He has them in custody now. How we got him, we are not sure. Of course, it's probably through violent means. So he's chained up, and he's trying to extract some information, that information being how to open the holocron that he had taken from the previous episode. And, of course, he's a Jedi. He's very noble. He's not giving up that information. And Cad Bane is, of course, ruthless, as we have come...
Noble, you say. So only a noble person would not open it. I just want to clarify that for later. Because you used that word specifically.
Don't forget he has the crystal.
I literally didn't know about the crystal until he was putting it in. He's like, now I'll put in the crystal that the Jedi had. And I'm like, what? All right, sure. Go
yeah, they did mention it before, but, you know.
And they showed it once before, too.
Was it in the intro?
No, Cad Bane was just like holding the holocron in one hand and then holding the diamond or crystal in the other hand. Guys, come on, pay attention.
God damn it.
This is like homework. This is legit homework. It's not even enjoyable anymore. I hate Star Wars.
But staying in. And as we can tell, this Jedi is certainly noble because he is not giving up the information on how to open up the holocron. And, you know, now we know from one episode with Cad Bane, he is ruthless. He will kill his friends to get his money. So he immediately is like, all right, you're not going to give it to me. Let's crank up the pain to maximum and see how far you can get. And fortunately, he dies.
But that doesn't stop Cad Bane from coming up with a new plan immediately.
Yeah, luckily for him, he is being pursued by two Jedi, Anakin and Obi-Wan. Or no, is it Anakin and Ahsoka or Anakin and Obi-Wan?
Anakin and Ahsoka. And Ahsoka has a sick turtleneck on.
We need more turtlenecks. Ahsoka has a new suit.
Ahsoka has like a suit, and Anakin just puts a helmet on top of his robes. Like
exactly, yeah, yeah. They're like, we can't like expose her skin in space. That would be too unbelievable. But we'll let Anakin have his robes.
He's a chosen one.
So Ahsoka and Anakin are on their way, and they're trying to figure out their plan of attack. And so they figure a good way of getting onto the ship is just literally putting on some space helmets and just jumping right onto the ship and cutting away in.
I thought of you when I was watching this because I remember the Plo Koon episode where he's in space.
We wouldn't see it again.
We wouldn't see it again, and we saw it again.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen this episode specifically ever before we recorded this episode. So they get onto the ship, and we see Cad Bane actually in the control room of this separatist ship. It's like definitely worth so much money, but Cad Bane's the one in charge of it. He is explaining his plan of how he's going to trap one of the Jedi and get the information on how to open up the holocron out of them, ensuring that Nute Gunray will get what he desires.
So, I mean, this is another example of Anakin and Ahsoka, and I guess I'm thinking about it now, maybe that's kind of a theme of the episode of just like, and I talked about it before, is just the Jedi not really being able to understand Cad Bane and having a difficulty understanding, like, the criminal mind. Because, like, once again, we're in a situation where Anakin and Ahsoka think one way about Cad Bane without knowing what he wants to do. And then the tables are sort of flipped again, which is that, Cad Bane has absolutely no qualms with blowing up all of the Separatist ships, because he doesn't care. He does not care about Viceroy Gunray. He does not care about the Separatists. He cares about getting the job done so that Sidious will flood his bank account with money, and that's what happens. And so Anakin and Ahsoka end up on the ship with all their troops.
So that's when Cad Bane realizes that it's Anakin and Ahsoka. He realizes that they're master and apprentice, and he needs to like separate them. That's not going to be an easy job. So what he does is he constructs a plan to put the droids against the clones in an all-out battle. And one of his plans is to mess with the gravity for a really intense battle scene, something we haven't seen before.
Yeah,
a little bit in like Malolan's arc with being in space, but this is different because it's inside of a facility.
It's just another really smart action sequence. They keep upping the ante on the action sequences, and that was a standout one for sure.
This takes the cake, definitely.
You got like clones upside down on the roof.
My favorite was when you hear one of the clones be like, "Men, we've trained for this," and I'm like, "You trained for this?"
Well, it's like Cad Bane is also playing to his advantage too, because he's got rocket boots.
Exactly.
Cad Bane's smart,
and like magnetic boots, because he like
that's true.
On the floor.
Yeah.
So of course that's what he uses to his advantage against Jedi. Is Jedi, they have the Force, but they don't have gravity boots. And so he is able to kind of even the playing field by a massive amount. Like, if you think about it, he would have died pretty damn easily, but, with the power of gravity, he was able to, like, level the playing field to a serious degree. We see a bunch of people get killed, droids and clones alike, and Anakin gets trapped underneath some rocks while Ahsoka and him are separated. And so Cad Bane uses this to his advantage to get Ahsoka to chase him away from the battle, while Anakin is incapable of helping Ahsoka out. This is kind of where her arc comes into play, because Ahsoka is very unlevel-headed right now. She's thinking about the same thing that happened in the Battle of Felucia. She's thinking about what's happening personally to her as opposed to the battle as a whole. And so she goes over to chase Cad Bane. And even Anakin screams, "It's a trap, don't go." But she's like so in her own head right now that she can't even process that. She's too busy thinking about Cad Bane and what his next move is.
Enjoy this while you can, Sleemo. This burning boat is about to finish us both off.
We have time. The bond between a Jedi teacher and his apprentice is strong.
Which means my master will be coming for me any minute.
Let's see if we can get him here any faster.
Once Ahsoka gets knocked unconscious, it cuts immediately to an extreme close-up onto Anakin's eyes opening, and to indicate that he is completely aware of what's happening right now. Ahsoka is in pain. She is in his custody, and everything is going wrong right now.
Yeah, Ahsoka is getting tortured. Ahsoka takes a lot of punishment, like the virus episode. Like, she basically dies in that, and then she's being tortured in this.
Being tortured mentally in the previous arc in Ryloth, with like the loss of all her troops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude, she goes through a significant trauma.
That's trial by fire, like trial by flamethrower. Like.
So that's when we see Anakin's, I think to quote you, Yates, from the last time something dark-sidey happened, he gets pissed. And he starts walking down the hallway, and even 3 battle droids are like, we're not going to beat this guy. We should just let him kill us. Obvious signs of a dark side inside of Anakin, which I feel like everyone has to know there's like some dark side in him at this point. It's too obvious.
Well, I think it's just like in this war, that's a good thing, you know? I mean, you could say the same thing about you could say the same thing about Pong Krell in like season 4. Like you think that guy's a fucking dick.
Oh, yeah.
Like you think people don't know he's a fucking dick. Like, yeah, he's a fucking dick. A Jedi shouldn't act like that. But like, it's a good.
But I'm just saying, it's like
Yeah, you got managers who are dicks, and then you just kind of overlook it. Like comparing it to like a real life scenario. Where it's like everyone knows that manager's a dick, but they're not gonna like fire them or do anything about it.
sure, but I mean, inside when you think about that person, you definitely think there's something wrong going on with them, whether it be at their home life or something like that.
You're right.
So what I'm trying to say is I don't think then any of that gets properly addressed, at least as of yet. I haven't seen every Clone Wars episode, obviously.
Yeah, it does.
So far?
Yeah, they gave him Ahsoka. Remember, we talked about how it was therapeutic for him.
Let's just hope Anakin is ready for this responsibility.
Ready he is to teach an apprentice, to let go of his pupil. A greater challenge it will be. Master this, Skywalker must.
Yeah, and now they're reprimanding Ahsoka by bringing her back in the last episode. So, it's kind of a thing. And we also talked about when Ahsoka asks Anakin what the deal is with Tatooine, and he says, like, I'm not going to talk about it. And yeah, it could be from the pain of, like, losing his mom and, like, his whole upbringing. But it's also like, yeah, I don't want to talk about how I, like, massacred, like, a whole group. But
Ahsoka doesn't know that.
Well, exactly, but that's what's on Anakin's mind is like...
Of course, Anakin has a dark side. I'm just talking about like the people that are aware of it, and they don't talk about it.
Right, but what I'm saying is that Anakin chooses what to reveal about himself. Anakin's a serial killer. Like, Anakin knows what to tell people to get him to like him, or at least not to think about him in that way, and he's only going to show sides of that when no one's around.
No, yeah, sure. I agree with that, but I think there's moments like in this episode where you can just visibly see a different person inside of him, like a darker person. And I'm pretty sure it's happened like 1 or 2 times since we started the podcast, but we haven't really seen anyone address it yet. Right. And I'm pretty sure I have a clip in my head, but I'm not going to like talk about it. Like I remember there's a specific scene where Anakin and Obi-Wan are talking about something very, very important to Anakin's story. And about how it's like it's a bad path to go down, but it's never really like, it's not talked about enough, I don't think.
Everything is just obvious. I mean, he calls
it's obvious,
Amidala like Padme all the time, but no one just says anything.
Exactly. I think it's too obvious not to talk about.
Well, right. Well, most of the time it's with Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, not with like other people. Like he's got his manners up when Mace Windu's around, when Luminara's around. Like, again, I think it's just like knowing like who he's comfortable around. Let's think of what this sequence is like for Ahsoka. Ahsoka's being tortured, and she may say like, Anakin, don't open the box for them. Don't open the holocron for Cad Bane. Let me die. She might say that. But, we know about Ahsoka's character from this season, and we're at the start of this season and last season. And Ahsoka's got, a bit of a dark streak. It's in no way comparable to what's going on inside Anakin. But Ahsoka is trapped, and she's being attacked, and she's being violated. And then she sees Anakin turn out a lightsaber, tap into that rage, and, she knows that Anakin cares about her. And she knows that Anakin is going to, if he can, destroy everything destroy all these forces that are hurting her. Like, from her perspective, like, his rage is like saving her, kind of. Like, like she could see it that way.
I get that, yeah.
Everyone has like a bad side to them. No one's perfect.
Well, some of the Jedi are like literally perfect.
I mean, that's like Yoda, but he's like 800 years old. He probably just has no anger left in him.
But like Luminara so far, and Mace
that we know that we know of. Like, we're judging Anakin from like movies and episodes, where Luminara we've seen her in one episode.
Sure, but I'm also talking about like our personal knowledge.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like our personal knowledge of these characters.
Yeah,
we know nothing about Luminara. Like, if we had a show about Luminara, maybe she does have like an angry side to her that we just don't know. Because we've seen episodes where Anakin is like completely fine, just like Luminara was completely fine in that episode. But then we see Anakin in certain circumstances that push him over the edge, and that's when he taps into that dark side. Maybe Luminara when she's in tight binds and tough situations, gets the same way. Yeah. We don't know. And the same thing with Mace Windu. He taps into the dark side. Yeah. Like, that's like a known fact. I mean, it's probably not canon anymore. But
no, I think it is.
We talk about that in last week's episode. Is that
I was in the hospital.
But that's sort of the whole thing, too, of the Jedi being in the war, is that they're put in a situation, and we see it, with Anakin in this episode and with Ahsoka, like, constantly. Being in the war puts the Jedi in a situation where, that type of behavior, whether it's recklessness or whether it is straight up tapping into the dark side, that's the type of behavior that gets rewarded. Maybe it is like bad writing that Obi-Wan, doesn't like confront Anakin, or, maybe that's the dark side. Maybe the fact that Obi-Wan is complicit in all the clear warning signs that Anakin is displaying, that's part of Obi-Wan's struggle with the dark side, is that Obi-Wan doesn't see it because Anakin's methods are effective for the purposes of this war.
Yeah, Anakin, never follows orders, and he's so reckless, and Ahsoka looks up to him so much, and she's the same way, and she's getting herself into all these, terrible situations, and being like, this is what my master did. Even one time, Obi-Wan is like, oh, I see she's following your footsteps, and Anakin's like, oh, is she winning? And then he's like, for now. Where it's like, oh, man. They completely are just ignoring that he's so reckless. Like, he's a terrible teacher. Why would you give him a Padawan?
Why would you give him a Padawan? Aside from, the therapeutic reasons that you mentioned.
Right, exactly, which is just, why they're just overlooking it, because he doesn't do the job the way they want it done, but he gets it done.
And that kind of ties into what Yoda was speaking about in Empire Strikes Back, where it's the light side and the dark side are very similar, but the dark side is always a shortcut to finding your ends and the means.
The cave. Remember your failure at the cave.
But I've learned so much since then. Master Yoda, I promise to return and finish what I've begun. You have my word.
It is you and your abilities the Emperor wants. That is why your friends are made to suffer.
That's why I have to go.
Luke, I don't want to lose you to the Emperor the way I lost Vader.
You won't.
Stop, they must be. On this all depends. Only a fully trained Jedi Knight, with the Force as his ally, will conquer Vader and his Emperor. If you end your training now, if you choose the quick and easy path, as Vader did, you will become an agent of evil.
Patience.
And sacrifice Han and Leia.
If you honor what they fight for, yes.
I just want to talk about how Ahsoka's arc kind of comes to a conclusion when they get to the end, and after Anakin opens up the holocron for Bane after Ahsoka's custody is revealed to him, they're after Bane because he's escaping with the information, not the holocron fortunately, but just the information on it. And Anakin is on his tail, and he's like, we have to get him, but the ship is being destroyed at the same time. And Anakin is like, we can't just let him get away. But Ahsoka's learned the lesson that Anakin and all the Jedi Council were trying to teach her, which is you can't think in the moment, you have to think of the broad sense of the war.
Yeah, that was a very powerful moment, because he's just still running off, I have to catch Bane, and she just yells, patience! And then she takes a pause, and she's like, oh god, I need to realize my place, my master, she says, my master, humbling. And then Anakin also, humbles himself, and he's like, you know what, you're right. And then he goes with her. Exactly. I thought that was so powerful. That was a really good moment.
No, yeah, exactly. It's so cool, because it's like Ahsoka lashes out at Anakin, as Anakin lashes out at everyone. Mm-hmm. But Ahsoka's so wise for her age. Anytime she selects to lash out is always for the greater good. It's never a lashing out for the wrong reasons. I mean, you could say this episode, but that's kind of the crux of the whole story, is her trying to learn her lesson and when she shouldn't lash out. But overall, her as a character, she's so aware of herself and everything around her that she's able to completely understand where her place is, as you just said.
Children of the Force is where the arc comes to conclusion. At the end of the previous episode, Ahsoka and Anakin do escape, and Cad Bane stows away, kills a clone officer, and stows away in a clone trooper outfit.
Very smart.
Very smart, yep. And he darts away. So Cad Bane does get away. And it's at this point that really the full breadth of what Sidious's plan actually is. Cad Bane immediately from there goes on a mission to kidnap a number of Force-sensitive children, take them to a hidden lair that Sidious has on Mustafar, He's not there himself because Sidious is always a hologram, but he does have droid minions there. And the children are there for an experiment that involves the Force and involves their Force sensitivity. And it's a race to get to the children before the experiment is done and the children's lives are at risk or in danger. And Mace Windu and Obi-Wan go off on their own story, and Anakin and Ahsoka go off on their other story. But for me, I think the most interesting part of this episode was Sidious's plan. The whole point of this plan was for Darth Sidious to utilize the Force-sensitive children in order to see into the future, in order to potentially control their minds, and in order to potentially enhance his foresight. And for me, this is totally emblematic of what Sidious's ultimate plans are, what Sidious values, and what Sidious can do if he is given the power that he ultimately will acquire by the end of this story. And that is knowledge above everything else. Here we are, we talked about it in the first episode. The Jedi are overlooking the fact that all this sort of old arcane Force Jedi knowledge is in the Jedi Temple. But here, that's all Sidious cares about. Sidious wants knowledge. Sidious wants to see the future and to control the future.
Sidious wants power.
Yes.
Sidious wants power, and knowledge leads to power.
And the ultimate, fruition of that power would be, ultimate foresight into the future to be able to see everything that comes. And obviously, he has to have a strong foresight already because he is able to predict all of these things that happen in the Clone Wars and to be able to think ahead of pretty much every single opponent that stands in his way. Sidious is able to circumvent them. He knows where they're going. But, unlimited power, that will be what is that? And I think you see him here testing to see what that is. And, the cost is what makes what happens in this episode significant, because we see that the cost is violating a child's life, basically. He steals these 4 children from their family. Many children's lives.
I foresee an army of Force-talented spies in my service, trained in the dark side to peer into every corner of the galaxy from afar. And my enemies would be helpless against such vision. If the surgery fails, I will have lost nothing.
Wow, you're just right. This is so many episodes of passive stakes, where it's like the fate of the universe or the fate of the Force. It's always at risk, but they underplay it so much.
I really think there's an opportunity in the future to see a lot of this type of stuff from Sidious in between a Sith and A New Hope. I think these are what his goals are beyond the creation of the Empire. This would be phase 2. If the Empire...
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, this is...
Once
this
the
is
Empire's established.
Yeah. I mean, the philosophy of the Sith is power and force, but the problem is, George has said this all the time, but once you start satisfying your desire for power, all you're going to want is more. You have an empire, what more do you need? And, the answer, Death Star. Force-sensitive, super foresight people, this is Sidious's long game. Ultimately, Sidious's plan fails. Anakin and Ahsoka are able to get the kids in time before things go not very good for those kids. We don't know what the stakes are, but, the droids imply that, whatever Sidious is doing is extremely dangerous and could very well kill the kids. And that's just the cost that Sidious is willing to pay. And, there couldn't be more evil, just blanket evil statement than that. So the other story, the B story basically, is that Cad Bane is in prison. They managed to catch him at long last. Obi-Wan and Mace think that they're following up, the lead that they need in order to save the kids. But, of course, Anakin and Ahsoka, they have their own misadventure, and they're actually the ones that end up saving the kids. But Obi-Wan and Mace lose Cad Bane. They lose Cad Bane again. I think Cad Bane is the most competent villain so far in all of the Clone Wars, and he's a total fucking badass. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. He's a badass. I mean, obviously, this is his introductory arc, so it's hard to, nail him down right here. But It's kind of complicated because it's not just, like, as a person that's familiar with all of the Clone Wars, I mean, it's not just this episode where he has to, like, go away from his mission and just kind of collect what he can, like, with his ships and with his bunny. Because, you know, it's kind of like, would you consider that winning? Would you consider that a successful mission if, you know, the mission is a failure? If you keep the reward? Like, what's your interpretation of that? Because in my mind, I looked at that as, like, he didn't succeed. He was ordered to, like, get the holocron, and he lost the holocron. Luckily, he kept the information from it, but it's like you said, it went from 4 children to, like, it could have been, like, thousands of children. Like, I definitely see that as, like, a failure. And
he has both wins and losses. I feel like a majority of the, like, villains that we get, they just immediately lose.
No, yeah, you're right. You know, it's not... I think it's less important, really, whether or not he's successful. I think it's more about, like, what defines a good villain. Because I think a villain like General Grievous or like Asajj Ventress, who are, like, forced to completely lose for the sake of a good, like, heroic overtake, is a lot less entertaining to a villain who can, like, win sometimes and lose sometimes. And, you know, maybe he'll lose and he'll think he's winning, and maybe he'll win, but he thinks he really lost. And I think that's a lot more interesting of a character. So I think that's, like, what ultimately makes him the best villain so far.
I feel like he does a better job of going against the Jedi than Grievous or Asajj Ventress, and he doesn't even have a lightsaber. He's not even force sensitive. He uses the greatest weapon of all, as Yoda says, which is his mind, and he constantly outmaneuvers and outwits them, and I think that's amazing.
Sidious is the one that loses in this. Cad Bane works for Cad Bane at the end of the day. You know, he might have lost the holocron in the long run, might have burned some bridges with Darth Sidious at the end of it, but Cad Bane got paid. He can go buy a new ship, get drunk, buy a new secret hideout, do whatever he wants. And to Cad Bane, I think that's always a win. And I think, yeah, I mean...
But at the same time,
if we're going to do the fanboy scorecard, I think, and I'm talking about myself, but if we were going to do the fanboy scorecard, he has absolutely tallied up the most wins of, like, in this arc. You know, he outsmarts the Jedi at pretty much every turn, I think, and he's even able to resist the mind probe of the Jedi, which is kind of a reverse of the torture in the previous episode, where he's the one that's torturing the Rodian Jedi. He's the one that goes all the way. And the Jedi are torturing him, and, you know, Cad Bane isn't spilling anything. Cad Bane would probably die with the information, I would think. And that would push the Jedi for them to do a moral loss if they were to push him to the point where they killed him or wiped his mind or something.
That's really tough to say, like, if he would die for the info or not, because I feel like he's so about himself, he wouldn't want to die.
Like, he wants to be the best bounty hunter, that he wants to die with the information.
No, I'm saying he wouldn't want to die because he enjoys his life too much.
But he also knows who Darth Sidious is. Like, I'm not saying the identity.
That's what Mace Windu says.
Yeah, but he's like, you're the Sith Lord. Like he knows who Darth Sidious is, and he knows what the kids are going to be used for. So, like, he knows that Darth Sidious is not someone that, you know, to be messed around with. I mean,
I think in the first episode when he's talking to the Claudite, he's like, oh yeah, our Sith Lord person. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to go back on top of what you were saying, because you were saying, like, you know, he gets his reward. Whether or not he's an enemy of Sidious now is kind of irrelevant, because in this situation, he won overall. Because I kind of disagree, because at the same time, it's also, like, in his very first shot in this arc is about his reputation. So it's also, like, a matter of reputation. Like, was he able to successfully pull off this mission? Like, he could personally feel like, oh, okay, well, I've got my money, so what do I care? But he could also feel the opposite and feel like, oh my God, my reputation is, like, severely damaged. This is a total loss for me.
Well, here's the thing. What he lost is really what Sidious lost. Sidious lost the kids, and no one knows about the kids. I mean, that's not the word on the street. The word on the street is Cad Bane broke into the Jedi Temple. Cad Bane killed 2 Jedi, and potentially more, we don't know. Cad Bane was captured by the Jedi. Cad Bane resisted the Jedi mind probe and got away from the Jedi again.
And he got the money.
And he got fucking paid doing it.
Yeah.
And we don't have to talk about it now, but I think it comes up later, and it's worth talking about now. Canonically, right now, Cad Bane is top dog. Cad Bane is Boba Fett. Cad Bane is...
Boba Fett wants to be Cad Bane.
Yes.
100%.
Well, that's my point. I mean, Jango Fett might have been top dog before. Now it's Cad Bane. Cad Bane is the most dangerous guy out there, and with good reason, because I think we see in this arc, for the first time, a villain that can outsmart all of our main characters, and they just get by the skin of their teeth. And so does Cad Bane. That makes a good serialized villain. Not necessarily, I wouldn't want to see Anakin versus Cad Bane as a movie per se, but as a weekly television show, Cad Bane is an even match for our heroes. Not in the way that General Grievous or Asajj Ventress is, because I think Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka always end a fight with Grievous or Asajj Ventress. The Jedi still have the moral high ground. In this, I think I've seen the Jedi debase themselves, trying to get Cad Bane or make fools of themselves.
No, yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna blow his mind into spaghetti when they were trying to.
Yeah, my favorite thing a villain can do is outsmart the hero.
He's definitely the villain we've needed after the first season, I think.
Absolutely, dude. I can't take another Asajj Ventress in an escape pod.
God, me too.
I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm feeling a very exciting start to season 2.
For sure.
There's a ton of arcs coming up I am super pumped about. But I'm probably the only one pumped about next week, where Godzilla crashes into Star Wars.
So does Matthew Broderick, don't worry.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, next week is season 2, episode 17. Okay, Bounty Hunters. That's Godzilla's not in that. Season 2, episode 18, The Zillo Beast. Season 2, episode 19, The Zillo Beast Strikes Back. We're jumping a bit ahead towards the end of season 2. Forget about that release order. Jump ahead to the end of season 2, and we'll watch those episodes. This has been Yates.
This has been Jordan.
This has been Keats, and if you love Star Wars, I love you.
If you love Cad Bane, I love you.
I hate Star Wars, so I hate you.
Signing off. May the Force be with you.